Welcome to Bible, Bravery, and Bullshit. Sorry, Mom, with Pastor Dan Miner, the unapologetic podcast for those tearing down old beliefs, choosing deconstruction, or those who have walked away from traditional faith. If you're questioning, evolving, or just plain fed up with the modern Christian machine, you're in the right place. Hey, you might laugh, cry, maybe get pissed off, or who knows, get inspired to keep up the good fight. You can follow me or Harvest Church on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook to get connected. The links are in the description of this podcast. Here we go. Welcome back to Bible, Bravery, and Bullshit with Dan Miner. This is a show where we love Jesus, question everything, and occasionally want to slap the holy smirk off of somebody. Lovingly, of course. You know, on the inside, with consent, in prayer, or whatever it is. And before we jump in, I need to say this because we're living in a moment where everything feels shaky. Like, you know, the country's doing that thing where you're driving and the steering wheel starts vibrating. You're like, yeah, this is a major issue. Something bad's about to happen. The tire's coming off. Am I about to meet my maker? Well, I'm not going to spend the whole episode on politics, but I refuse to be on the side of history that stayed quiet. I'll tell you that much. And there's a version of Christianity right now that has confused being quiet with being holy. I'm watching people use unity as a muzzle. I'm watching keep the peace become the excuse for ignoring injustice. I'm watching pastors tell their people to stop being divisive, when what they mean is, stop making me uncomfortable. And if the church can't tell the truth when the vulnerable get crushed, then the church is not the church. It's just some sort of strange social club, maybe with a cross on the wall. I don't think we use crosses anymore in church, do we? Whatever they put on the wall. Okay, now here we are. Today we're talking about one of the most dangerous verses in the Bible, not because it's evil, because we have used it like a weapon and then act shocked when people bleed. Are you ready? You're probably not going to guess it. It's this one. Love never fails. 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, the wedding chapter, the chapter you've heard right before a couple that hates each other takes their photos in some field with flowers as they get bit by mosquitoes or no, that's fine. And listen, I grew up hearing it like a guarantee, like a cosmic or spiritual vending machine. Put love in, get a happy ending out. But then you live a little life and you start asking questions like, if love never fails, why did my first marriage fail? Why did my relationship with maybe a parent fail? Why did a friendship fall apart? Why did a church community turn on me? Why did I love my best and still lose someone? You start thinking either love is a lie or somehow it's my fault. I'm the failure. I'm the problem. And neither of those things are true. And so today I want to reframe it. The title is Love, Truth, and Letting Go. Or if you want, if you want the other version, the Bible, Bravery, and Bullshit version, it's Love Wins My Ass. Because I have a friend, kind of a friend, used to be a friend. They started a ministry called Love Wins. And I was like, yeah, no, it doesn't. I wanted to start a counter ministry called Love Doesn't Win or Love Loses or something corny like that. Our logo would just be like a little broken heart and a Venmo link for therapy. But here's the problem. We were taught that if we just love harder, we'd fix everything. And that theology has trapped a lot of people in things that should have ended a long time ago. We were told leaving means you didn't try hard enough. Boundaries mean unforgiveness. Walking away means that love failed. And that is some real church bullshit. Because sometimes love doesn't fail. Because sometimes love is about telling the truth. And it's not the tell the truth in love that we use to shame people. Sometimes the truth needs to end something like a relationship. And that's loving. And here's where it ties into what's going on in the world in our nation. This whole keep loving and it'll work out mindset has been used to keep people quiet in public life too. You've heard it. Just be kind. Don't make it political. Pray about it. Focus on unity. And that's all great unless it's code for stop actually naming harmful, destructive things. Because for some reason in America, love your enemies has been interpreted as never challenge power. And that is not what Jesus meant. Jesus loved enemies, but Jesus also flipped tables. So if your definition of love makes you allergic to confrontation, but comfortable with cruelty, you didn't find love, you found some sort of sedative. And let's say it plainly. You can be the most kind, compassionate, Christ-like person and still get divorced. You can love deeply, still have family members refuse to speak to you. You can pour yourself out and still end up with endings of relationships. You can do everything nice. Speak softly, stay polite, post a little prayer hands emoji or Lion of the Tribe of Judah or whatever it is. Still watch people get crushed by policies and systems that Christians defend like it's their job. If love never fails means love guarantees outcomes, then yes, love fails all the time. But I don't think that's what Paul meant. We just assumed it. And the church loves themselves some assumptions. We assume that success means people stayed together. We assume holy means that someone endured pain quietly. We assume faithful means they kept the peace at the expense of reality. We assume love means make yourself smaller so you're easier to manage. And politically, it's the same playbook. Make yourself smaller, be quieter, be easier to manage. Don't disrupt, don't protest, don't name things, don't make people uncomfortable. That's not love, that's control. Masquerading around like it's some sort of hymn. Jesus says something that could and should mess with our theology a little. In Matthew 11, he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." That should give us pause, because if what you're carrying is crushing you, it's not easy and light. If loving someone requires the loss of your peace, your voice, your sense of self, the autonomy of your body, not like one bad day, but a pattern over time, and something about that version of love is off. And yes, that applies to relationships, but it also applies to churches. It applies to political movements that demand your silence in exchange for belonging. If the community only loves you when you don't question it, it doesn't love you, it's using you. If you have to swallow your conscience to stay welcome at the table, that table isn't sacred. Now here's where it gets a little controversial. Because Paul doesn't just say love is patient and kind. He says something that we skip. He says love rejoices in the truth. Truth. Not denial. Not pretending. Not keeping the peace while your insides scream. So let me say it like this. If you have to lie to yourself to stay in a relationship, then relationship is not being held together by love. It's being held together by fear. And the same is true when you're in a church or a political tribe or whatever it is out there, where you start doing the mental gymnastics like, well, I don't think I heard what I just heard. Or I don't think they meant it like that. Or maybe it's taken out of context. Maybe it's complicated. Let's just focus on, Jesus. Meanwhile, the vulnerable around us are getting harmed. And we call silence wisdom. That was wise for me to stay quiet in that moment. No, love rejoices in the truth, and truth sometimes makes people mad. And sometimes truth costs you a seat at a table that wasn't healthy anyways. This is where I want to kind of connect it to the larger church ecosystem, for lack of a better word, because this shows up in churches and ministries all the time. A lot of us were taught if you love this church, you don't ask questions. If you love this pastor, you don't challenge leadership. If you love this movement, you protect it, honor it. Culture of honor thing, And that protect the movement culture has created some of the nastiest cover-ups in modern history. I'm not going to go super deep, but if you follow the recent stuff being exposed around certain charismatic and prophetic leaders, it's dark. Todd White stuff. You can Google it. Sean Bowles stuff going on with some of the players at Bethel Church. There's people that knew, boards that knew, staff that knew, religious leaders that knew, and people stayed silent because they were told silence was love, or they were quote unquote confused. They didn't know what to do or how to handle it. They were told, if you love God's work, don't stir up trouble. It's going to hurt more people. Meanwhile, the trouble was already happening. They just didn't want it named. And here's the wild part. In those systems, the people asking healthy questions get labeled rebellious. Have you been there? The people setting boundaries get labeled unforgiving. The people telling the truth get labeled divisive. And politically, the same thing happens. You name racism, you're divisive. You name cruelty, you're too political. You name corruption, you're attacking God's anointed. No, I'm attacking the bullshit. Bullshit that's harmed people, stolen their voice, taken advantage of their bodies without permission or consent. I hate to say this, but I am one. It's almost always men, which is why sometimes I think the fruit of the Spirit should include less male confidence. Just a thought, Now, Jesus actually does give us a definition of love that modern Christianity conveniently ignores. Love God in Matthew 22, and this one that we're failing miserably at. Well, not all of us. Love your neighbor as yourself. Meaning, the love of neighbor that destroys the love of self is not the love Jesus is talking about. If in order to love you, I have to destroy me, that's not love. Because those two commands are meant to work together. So love God, love neighbor, love self. Not love neighbor, hate self, and call it holy. So here's kind of the reframe for us. What if love never fails doesn't mean it saves every relationship? But what if it means it keeps you whole? What if love never fails because it refuses to turn you into something you're not? Because Paul never promised love guarantees results. Paul describes how love forms a person: patient, kind, honest, not abusive, not self-erasing. And that's the win for us, I think. Not we stayed together no matter what, but I didn't lose myself trying to keep it together. Let me say it just a tad sharper. Love doesn't fail when a marriage ends. Love fails when we lose ourselves trying to save it. Love doesn't fail when you leave a church. Love fails when you stay so long you stop telling the truth. Love doesn't fail when you break with a political party that demands your silence. Love fails when you keep your mouth shut while people get harmed because you didn't want to lose friends, status, whatever it might be. And this is where I'm going to step on some toes, but I'm stepping on toes to keep you from stepping on a landmine. Something that I want to say, sometimes forgiving someone over and over without accountability isn't love. Sometimes you're not forgiving, you're enabling. Because you're not being Christ-like, you're being manipulated. Some of us were trained to do this very insane, harmful thing. Because someone hits us with a bat, eventually they drop the bat, and then in the name of love, we pick it up and hand it back. And we call that sacrifice. That's not sacrifice, that's self-betrayal. And I've watched churches praise people for staying in abusive situations like endurance is holiness. Endurance is not holiness, and boundaries are not unforgiveness, and leaving is not failure. This is not a pro-divorce message. This is a pro-protecting you, taking care of you. Sometimes leaving is wisdom. Sometimes leaving is survival. Sometimes leaving is love. Now let's flip this into something that might help people carrying rejection. Sometimes relationships ended not because you're bad, but because your growth threatened someone's certainty. Your journey shook their theology. Your authenticity disrupted their comfort, and the most honest thing both of you could do was create distance. That's not them rejecting you as a person. That's them protecting their own worldview. They weren't ready for what you were bringing to the table. And it still hurts. I get it. I'm not pretending it doesn't. But if you shrink yourself to get them back, that's not love either. If you change your own view on the world and humanity in order to get them back, that's not love. That's fear. Love will not ask you to lie about who you are. Love will not demand you hide parts of yourself. Whether you are gay, you are confused when it comes to faith, your record, your marriages that have failed, love will not demand you hide those parts of yourself. Love will not require you to betray your own soul for belonging. And here's a I guess a little weird little example from the Bible that I love. It's the Good Samaritan. We celebrate it like compassion, mercy, hero moment. But have you noticed that he helps the man and then he brings him to an inn and then he leaves him? He doesn't move in with him. He doesn't become his full-time nurse. He doesn't destroy his life to prove that he's loving. He does what he can do. He provides care. He sets limits and he entrusts the rest to someone else. That's love and mercy and compassion with boundaries. Now that should free somebody listening to this, because you're not a superhero and neither am I. You can love someone and still say, this is as far as I can go. You can care about somebody without pushing yourself to full collapse. So here's how we land this plane. Whether you set boundaries with a person, a church, a system, or a version of yourself, choosing health, safety, and honesty is never a failure of love. It is love at work. Love wins not because everything stays intact, but because love keeps calling you back to who you are. Love never fails because it refuses to disappear inside you. Even when relationships end, love has already done its work in you. Maybe that's the promise we were meant to hear all along. All right, if this hits home, send it to somebody who's been told, if you loved me, you'd stay. And if you're the person who says that to other people, pause, repent, maybe schedule some therapy, because that's love too. This is Bible, Bravery, and Bullshit with Dan Miner. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. And if you'd like to support our nonprofit, you can go to harvestsarasota.com and click the Give tab. One of the greatest ways you can tell us this podcast helped you is by liking, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing with your friends. Till next time, keep asking questions, be patient with yourself, and find someone to show some love this week.